This is Outnumbered. I'm Andrea Tanteros, and here today, Sandra Smith, Harris Faulkner, Jedediah Bila, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, actor, producer, author, and of course, Hercules, Kevin Sorbo is here, and he is outnumbered.
I am outnumbered. This is kind of cool. You know, I've done The View before, and that should be called Our View instead of The View. It was a completely different setup for me, but this is wonderful. I'm a big fan.
Would you call this, Kevin, maybe a Herculean effort, putting up with 4 women? I'm
saying that this is the way life should be.
Oh, I like that about you.
This is good. This is good.
Yeah. Now, are you outnumbered at home? Because I know you're married with kids.
Well, no, let's see now. I've got 2 boys.
Okay.
And I've got a girl and my wife, so that's 3-2, but then our dog is a female, so I guess it's balanced out. So
okay, we got balance there.
We got balance.
All right.
Yes, we do.
Well, we look forward to
Great
the
to have
hour.
you. Great to have you here. It'll be a very fun hour.
Thank you.
All right. President Obama is at the top of a list today that no leader would want to be on. He's being called the worst president since World War II. Yes, new polling from Quinnipiac University finds a plurality of registered voters, 33%, feel Mr. Obama is the worst to serve in the White House since 1945. And get this, 45% of voters say the United States would be better off if former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney had been elected in 2012 instead. Those numbers coming out as President Obama blasts congressional Republicans for an action on his agenda. And listen to this taunt for House Speaker John Boehner.
Middle-class families can't wait for Republicans in Congress to do stuff. So sue me. As long as they're doing nothing, I'm not going to apologize for trying to do something.
The president's comments coming on the heels of Speaker Boehner threatening just last week to sue him for abusing his executive authority. Okay, so Kevin, I'm going to go to you first on this.
Sure.
The president not having a good week with the Supreme Court. 12 times in the last 2 years he's been struck down by the court, most recently this year. New York Times reporting today, healthcare.gov, his prime achievement. Can't verify a lot of the data coming in. Washington Post hitting him for not paying women as much in the White House. The Middle East is burning. ISIS declares war on all of the Western civilization, and President Obama declares war on the Hobby Lobby. Do you think maybe that's why we're seeing these polls?
It's a good time to be president. All I can say is Jimmy Carter's going, whew, at least I got that monkey off my back.
He came in 4th.
That's right.
Yeah, I think he should have been a lot higher up than that. People need a history lesson. They need to go back to the late 1970s to see exactly where the country was, because we're not only on that path, we've passed that path. But we got a president who wanted to fundamentally change America, and he's doing it.
He sure did. Jedediah, I want to ask you about this. A known pollster, John Zogby, said, "We see a president in full salvage mode." He's reacting to this poll. He said he's not only racing for his legacy, but for his relevancy. Do you agree with that?
I agree, and he's not compromising because he wants to be remembered as the guy who, as you said, fundamentally transformed the country exactly as he's doing. He told us he was going to do this. I don't think anyone should be surprised. What was interesting to me, Andrea, is that I looked and I said 35% say Reagan was the best president since World War II. Don't tell me a conservative can't get elected with these numbers. Reagan's looking better than Barack Obama right now. The country is shifting. They're realizing a lot of these policies aren't working. But I think it should be a lesson to say, you know what? When a candidate says, this is what I'm going to do, listen, he's telling you. He told us all of this, starting with Obamacare, starting with when he was talking to Joe the plumber and saying he wanted to spread the wealth around. This shouldn't have been a surprise.
Sandra, you're a numbers girl, breaking down the numbers here. The president losing ground with almost every demographic that was polled. He lost 7% among liberals, 7% among independents. A big problem here, and I think an even greater problem for the Democrats who have to defend his agenda in the fall.
This should be sending a clear message to the Republican Party on how to run come midterm elections. Why? Because above anything else, what Americans are most upset about and most concerned about is the economy and jobs. This poll showed that. They ranked it above corruption in the government, foreign affairs, health care, budget. It's about jobs and the economy that the president has failed them on. So this is the time when the Republicans need to put their message together and target the American people who want to go back to work. They want the economy to turn around, because it certainly hasn't happened under this president.
And Harris, a plurality of voters also agree that he's basically given up, that he can't get anything done in the second term. The only bright spot I found, though, is they view Congress less favorably than him.
Well,
it's the only entity. So I guess he's got to run against Congress.
And that's what the president is banking on. That's a major part of his message with all of this, with the lawsuit right now. What he's saying is, well, at least I'm doing something. You know, I agree with Sandra. I think Republicans have a real opportunity here, but they have to be careful. They have to not fall into that trap of not ticking down and enumerating exactly where we've been and how we've gotten here. He might want to cue Senator Dianne Feinstein for a few of the details on that, the finer points like the NSA, which she took exception to, like the trade for Bo Bergdahl with the 5 Taliban leaders. I mean, he really could be crippled by some of the words in his own party. If the Republicans choose to run on this, they should look across the aisle and take some notes from some of the people who've been racking them up for him.
I actually think a lot of Democrats will be running from this, too. You're going to see a lot of scheduling conflicts with Democrats and the president, I think, come the fall.
That's an interesting message.
Well, I mean, I look at what's going on with California. Bring Feinstein's name. I can't help but think of Boxer Pelosi and her. All these people are from California. I live in California, and they've been in office for anywhere 25 to 30 years now. In 25, 30 years, the state keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So I look at people and go, I don't care where you are politically. Wouldn't you try something new, anything new, to try to have a change? And, of course, nothing's going to get done in Congress. I'm a guy, I want term limits. Term limits, please. The president gets 8 years max. Congress gets 6 years. They go in there, they get the job done, and get out after 6 years. No more 40-year careers for these people.
Maybe the president doesn't even get 8 years. I mean, because they're lame duck in their last 2 anyway, so it's kind of like 6 years anyway.
But still, look at these guys.
They're on a permanent campaign, though. Everything's about politics.
All the time.
Everything's about politics, about the legacy, about raising money for his library.
Well, I think some of the dissatisfaction with the president may have something to do with freedoms. Independence Day is just around the corner. And while Americans are getting ready to fire up the grill, a new poll shows that in the land of the free, we're feeling less and less free. Gallup reporting a steady drop since 2006, when 91% of Americans said they were satisfied with their freedom. Only 9% were dissatisfied. In 2010, 83% satisfied, 17% dissatisfied. And in 2013, the satisfaction rate down to 79%, with 21% of Americans dissatisfied with their freedom. And when it comes to ranking countries most satisfied with their freedom, the U.S. comes in at number 36. New Zealand, number 1, with 94% satisfaction. Even Cambodia and the United Arab Emirates rank higher. Gallup blaming a lot of it on the economy and political corruption. Now, Kevin, with 4th of July approaching, when you see this, when you see Americans concerned about their freedoms being limited, no matter what the cause, does this make you nervous?
Well, yeah. I mean, we are losing our freedoms. It's pretty obvious, but it's been going on for decades now. We have a president that is accelerating that right now. I mean, we have a president. It's all about mandates now. It's all about losing the IRS, you know, punishing us. We have a president that sat and watched Benghazi attack on TV, did nothing, was worried about just raising more money and going to a fundraiser. And it just goes on and on. What I thought most interesting is New Zealand. I lived there for 7 years shooting Hercules, and it's number 1. And I have to agree, it's an amazing country. That's got a lot of things that America had back in even in the 50s. It sort of reminded me of America in the 50s. I don't mean that as a negative way. It's no letters from New Zealand. They have all the technology of today. But it has that feel to me, and they deserve to be up there. In America, as low as we are, that's just sad.
Yeah. Sandra, how much of it do you think deals with the economy and just lack of confidence right now, unemployment numbers? I mean, it's a really hard time right now.
Think about yourself and your home life and your everyday life, and think about when you feel the most free. It's when you have money in the bank and you have money to spend. You feel the most freedom. And right now, with the youth unemployment rate almost 20% in this country right now, the real unemployment rate still double digits. People aren't getting that sense of freedom. And by the way, this is a very recent thing. You pointed out, Jedediah, that back in 2006 we were still number 1 on this list. This has happened rapidly. This puts us, of 120 countries surveyed, not even in the top quarter of countries that are feeling that satisfaction of freedom. And what better evidence than people really feeling like their rights have been stripped away from them than gun sales in the past couple of years, reaching record highs. People feared that their rights were being taken away from them. They feared that right to bear arms was going to be taken away from them. So I think we have evidence all over the place that people feel like those freedoms are missing.
Evidence of that, and then, as Kevin pointed out, I mean, look at that list. Maybe we could put it back up again. Number 3 really is Cambodia. People in Cambodia feel like they have more freedom than we do. But I mean, look at this. And look at the history and the infamy that Cambodia had as a communist nation during the Cold War. And people there feel like they have more freedoms. And perception is reality. People tend to act on their emotions. So, you know, it may take some time for the actual reality that we've been talking about to catch up with people's feelings, but they take action based on how they feel.
Right. You know,
they buy guns. They do things demonstrably.
Right.
Was Saudi Arabia really in the top 10? Did I see that right?
I don't know how many women they
what's
polled, though.
troubling to me.
And of course, they weren't driving women. So.
Yeah.
And you know, Andrea, you know, congressional approval numbers down. Barack Obama's approval numbers down. Now you see this number. Can people come back? Do you think there's a way for them to feel positive again? Can somebody get elected that inspires people that, yes, we care about your freedoms and your civil liberties? Can that happen?
Yes, and it's a great question. And I was thinking about, you know, how scary this is. To me, this is the scarier poll, that people feel they're losing their freedoms. And in a Muslim country, the United Arab Emirates, they feel that they have more freedoms. To your point, though, this may be the time for a libertarian. Before, people said, oh, libertarians, they're great, but they're not electable. Somebody like a Rand Paul, whose views now mirror that of the American people, that their freedoms are being taken away, is a huge political threat, and I would argue not even a dark horse. Because someone like Rand Paul can take those social issues off the table, and in that poll, Jedediah, people said they felt this way because government corruption. Who better than to make the argument, besides a libertarian, to say, you're taking some money from someone else and giving it to someone else? That is the epitome of corruption. It's a great campaign
Real
message.
quickly, though, would you run as a libertarian or as a libertarian-viewed Republican?
Libertarian viewed Republican.
Yeah,
opinion.
definitely the second one. Libertarians still, because of the legalization of prostitution and other issues that are a little too hot
on that platform,
stay away
sure.
from that. But Rand Paul could
Just
do
curious
it.
about that.
And it would get young people excited, I can promise you that. Well, one of the top female leaders in the corporate world is a mom who says she does not think women can have it all. We'll tell you who said it and why she feels that way. Plus, alarming new information on kids and sexting. What middle school students who send those messages are more